R.Shea Universe. We're super excited. We got, after months and months of litigious struggle between my lawyers and Ron's lawyers, we finally got our first canned lager for you. It is a Czech-style Pilsner, something that we've been wanting to do for so very long. This was actually, I know I've been the one really kind of pushing Ron for lagers and German-style beers, but this one is actually Kyle's recipe. Kyle took the lead on this. So this is the second beer of the Akroner series. So the first one, the vanilla porter. This one is we went to continental Europe. This is a Czech style beer. And of course, if you didn't see the last video, the whole point of this Akroner series of beers is we want to make working class beer for working class people. Just
for sure.
The kind of beer, you get out of work after a long day, 10-hour day, you just want to sit down and have a normal beer that tastes like beer. Nothing crazy, no, super crazy hops, adjuncts, flavors, whatever. You just good beer that tastes like beer.
Yeah.
That's low ABV and drinkable, but without sacrifice, but it's still full flavored.
Yeah, we were actually just joking before this that most of what we brew at R.Shea is like beer to hang out with your friends and drink. This is a beer to drink with your coworkers. After a long, hard day, you sit down, throw back a Pilsner or two. It's just that great working folks, classic, deep flavored beer.
Yeah.
With no real frills on top of it.
It's the kind of beer you can take home to your father-in-law. This is the kind of beer that if you're an experienced craft beer drinker, you can appreciate for the depth of flavor. But also just the experience of drinking this beer. It's so easy drinking, it's smooth, and it's just mellow, but at the same time it has layers of complexity to it. Yeah, like I said, you can bring this to your friends, your craft beer friends, your craft beer nerd friends, and you can spend hours talking about how complex it is, but at the same time you can give this to someone who's not experienced drinking craft beer, and they can appreciate just how easy drinking this is.
Yeah, it's as a craft beer drinker, which I'm sure pretty much anyone viewing this video is, you can appreciate what we've done with the simple list of ingredients. But if you are not a craft beer drinker, if you're someone who drinks X Light on the regular, this is kind of the ideal, better version of what you've been drinking.
The platonic ideal of what beer should be.
For sure.
Balanced, mellow, anybody can drink it and anybody can appreciate it.
Right. And like we were saying, the list of ingredients in this beer is pretty straightforward.
Deceptively simple.
There's not a lot on paper that goes into this, so it comes down to the technique. What we do with those ingredients to bring out your basic malts to become nice, full and bready and rich, and your real simple hop schedule to become complex and earthy and spicy and leave a nice lingering bitterness that doesn't necessarily punch you in the face, but lets you know that it's there.
Yeah. There's a lot of technique that goes into it, both on the brew side and fermentation-wise.
Absolutely.
Our cellarman, Nick, the poor guy, what he has to do to put up with, what we're doing with lagering and these extra long fermentations. And it's lagering, just fermentation-wise, there's so much more that goes into, fermenting a lager versus what goes into... Ales are pretty straightforward. Lagers, there's so much more of a complex. It's just more involved as far as fermentation schedule goes.
And it sounds cliche, but it is often said that with a lager, you have nothing to hide behind.
Exactly. Yep. If you screw up a lager, there's no big bold malts. There's no big bold hops. There's no fruits. There's no adjuncts. There's nothing to hide behind. When you screw up a lager, it's front and center. Whatever mistakes are in there.
So with this one in particular, when I was thinking of our Akroner series, that simple light beers, this is kind of the ideal I had in mind, where your malts, your hops, and even your yeast, none of them are crazy intense in your face, but they all play such an important role in balancing each other. That bready malt flavor, the spicy earthy hops, and a bit of a sulfury pop from the yeast. It all comes together for an eminently drinkable,
Oh yeah.
just great clean beer.
It's so good. So let's talk style real quick. So the history behind the Pilsner, I mean, this is, historically speaking, this is your first true pale lager. This came out, Pilsner Urquell, famous brewery in the Czech Republic. You may have seen it in stores. This was the original version of what this is. And so the backstory behind that is the early 1800s, the city of Pilsen, which is in Bohemia, modern day Czech Republic, which is kind of near the border between Bavaria, Germany, and the Czech Republic, they were ale brewers for the longest time. Lager brewing was only really being done in Bavaria, Germany. But the problem is a lot of the brewing techniques and the fermentation techniques that was going on in Pilsen, it was substandard. To the point where in the early 1800s, the city of Pilsen kind of had what was sort of like its own little Boston Tea Party, where the beer was not good, it was infected, it was getting sour, it's just low quality beer. So the citizens of Pilsen went out on the streets, they took all these barrels of beer, they were breaking them open, they're spilling them out on the streets, at least as the legend goes. You know, the citizens of Pilsen were like, we demand better beer. All this beer has been garbage lately. So what happened was the city of Pilsen itself, they invested city funds into building a state-of-the-art brewery, and they were like, we're going to hire a brewer who knows what they're doing. So what they did was they hired Joseph Groll, who was a Bavarian brewer actually, so a German brewer. Basically the idea was these Bavarian beers are nice and clean. That's what we need, we just need nice, clean beer. So Joseph Groll goes over to the Czech Republic, Bohemia at the time, and he brings basically two kind of traditions with him. He brings, first of all, the lager brewing techniques and tradition of Bavaria, and he also paired it with the more modern English malting technology, which allowed people to basically kiln their malt really nice and pale.
Yeah, at the time, any kind of lager you were drinking in that area was
Brown. Dark.
brown at best.
Yeah.
So having a pale malt available was such a revolutionary thing.
Exactly, it was revolutionary, and that's the thing about Pilsner. It was a revolutionary beer, which people take for granted nowadays, but the Pilsner beer was revolutionary. So it takes this really high quality malt from the Czech Republic, this Czech malt. He uses modern English pale malting technology, and he pairs it with lager yeasts and lagering technology and techniques to pair it with a really clean fermentation profile. And like I said, it's the kind of thing we take for granted nowadays, but there's no beer like this. A pale, clean, easy drinking, somewhat hop forward lager. There was nothing like it when this came out. This was the first of its kind. And so you may have heard the term Pilsner before, and you've heard it applied in so many different contexts. So for the most part, there's kind of like 3, maybe 4 types of Pilsner you might hear. So the thing people most commonly, unfortunately, associate Pilsner with is what we might now know nowadays as the American style Pilsner or international Pilsner, which is really light, kind of not much malt character, not much hot character, but just clean, easy drinking. You know, you're talking about Budweiser or even international Pilsner like Stella Artois. Just the whole point of it is just to be inoffensive, clean, and
most of
not
the
very
beers
red.
you'll see commercials on TV for.
Yeah. Which is fine for what they're trying to be. But unfortunately, it's in the craft beer world, it's kind of given these beers a stigma of, oh, this is just not a flavorful beer. It's just, we don't want to drink this because we're craft beer drinkers. We want to drink full flavor beers and not this, which is unfortunate. Now, the other 2 styles, what in the craft beer world, if a craft brewer is making a Pilsner, they're usually referring to one of 2 different styles. They're either referring to the Czech style or the German style. So the German style, so, you know, I give you the whole history of what the Czech Pilsner was, right? So Pilsner Urquell releases their first revolutionary pale lager, Pilsner Urquell. It hits the German market, and you have all these Germans going, we love what this is about, this pale, easy drinking, hop forward lager. We want some of our own. The thing was, at the time, the chemistry of German water was not the same as you would get in the Czech Republic, whereas Bohemian water was really nice and soft. German water, especially northern German water, you got a really hard sulfate-forward profile, which is sulfates, bicarbonate. They give a backbone and a bracingness to hops and the bitterness that they give. So a German-style Pilsner, you're gonna get a malt character that's much more dialed back. It's gonna be much more light, more crackery than bready or whatnot. Also, the hops are going to be much more forward. They're gonna sit on top of the malt, and it's gonna be much more bitter. And it's gonna be a nice drying bitterness, which is also really delicious. I love a nice German Pils.
Oh, for sure.
But that differentiates itself from a Czech-style Pilsner, whereas a Czech-style Pilsner, like I said, because the water's so soft, the bitterness doesn't present itself in the same way. The bitterness is much more soft. And the Czech-style Pilsner is also a bit more balanced, right? So whereas a German Pilsner, it's gonna be more of a light, dialed back malt character, crackery and honey, and somewhat grassy, but very light all the same. Whereas a Czech-style Pilsner, you're gonna have more of a malt character, or more of a doughy, bready, somewhat caramely character to the malt.
Yeah.
As well. And when you pair that with the more dialed back bitterness, at least as far as how it presents itself, the soft bitterness of a Czech Pilsner, you can get almost two totally different styles.
Yeah.
Which we both love, but almost two different things. Like I said, a Czech Pilsner is going to be more balanced, more malt forward than German Pils, and more mellow, more soft.
Yeah. And so with ours, we chased that more Czech tradition. So drinking our Akroner series Pils, you'll start out with a nice, like you said, doughy, almost bordering on caramel, bready malt flavor, and then the spicy and earthy hops.
On the back end of the swallow is where you
they
really
roll in behind you. They're not, and it always sounds silly kind of to talk about taste in terms of shape, but I find it pretty effective.
Oh yeah.
You don't have a sharp bitterness, but the bitterness rolls in behind.
It comes in really soft. Like I said, it's on first sip, you kind of get more like the bready, doughy malt character up front, but you kind of get that lingering, spicy, floral, herbal bitterness on the back end that lingers.
It rolls in like a wave and it stays with you. So you get, each sip gives you that hit of that real nice, deep, complex maltiness that then subsumes out to that hop spice and bitterness that lays on top of you.
Yeah. It's I think, like I said, this was actually Kyle's recipe. He took the lead on this one. I think he nailed it, what we were going for. And like I said, when we were talking about bitterness and hops, we listed at 45 IBUs, and it is 45 IBUs, but like you said, the water chemistry is soft. This doesn't drink like 45 IBUs.
Yeah,
it drinks much more soft and mellow than 45 IBUs.
Yeah, there's not harshness to it at all.
Yeah, it's a soft bitterness. And like I said, it's hoppy, but it's not as we think of hoppy in the American sense of we want this citrusy, piney, aggressive hop character sitting on top. It's based on almost all Saaz hops. We use a touch of Tettnang, so there's a touch of a German character to it, but for the most part, Saaz is the feature hop in this beer.
Yeah, very classic continental noble hop character.
And it's such a mild hop too. It's easy to get lost in the beer itself. And I mean that in a good way. Whereas, like an American pale ale IPA, an American style hop forward beer, you kind of want the hops sitting on top of everything else and being very forward. A mild noble hop like Saaz, it kind of really blends seamlessly with the malt, right? Because you kind of get somewhat more earthy and floral and soft and sweet with the hop. It's almost hard to tell where the malt ends and the hops begin.
Yeah.
That's really what you want the Czech Pils. If this is a German Pils, you would want it to be, much more forward, like, oh, I'm getting this floral, spicy character up front, whereas checks out pills, you really want that classic sauce character to really blend with the malt character. And then, like I said, you can't tell where the malt ends and the hop begins, which I'm ecstatic because I think that's what we accomplished well.
Yeah, it's a very exciting beer, and I think is one of the examples that, not to get maybe a little schmaltzy, speaks well to how well the two of us work together and how ideas that one of us have, the other one can help develop and bring forward, and I appreciate you doing such a good job with my little baby.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys aren't aware, I mean, so I'm the brewer at Canal Place. I do all of big, full-scale production brewing. That goes into cans and kegs. Kyle is our pilot brewer, so he gets to do all the smaller scale stuff. He gets to experiment with different recipes and stuff, and then when we like what he does, we upscale it, and then that's what I do here at Canal Place. And what we love about this beer was this was a truly collaborative process to come up with this beer.
For sure.
We had this idea for this Akroner series. I've been doing all these lagers for so long, and Kyle was like, hey, I want to do this Pilsner. And I was like, I love Pilsner. Awesome. Kyle, you take the lead. He wrote the recipe, and then there was a little bit of back and forth as far as, do you have any suggestions as far as malt bill, what have you? And like I said, Kyle took the lead. I had some suggestions. He brewed a pilot batch. We tasted it, and we're like, this is great. This is what we love about it. Here's what we want to tweak. We upscaled it. And then here at Canal Place, we incorporated a couple tweaks, and this is the final product. I mean, this is Kyle coming up with an idea, kind of really taking the lead on a beer. We collaborated, we made some tweaks, we upscaled it, and then we got a chance to incorporate the lagering techniques and whatnot that I'm used to. And I think this is awesome. If you want to know what a good collaborative beer tastes like, feels like, experiences like, there you go.
Cheers.
Bros.